More GOP dirty tricks against Ron Paul's supporters. 17 Ron Paul delegates have been disqualified from representing the state of Massachusetts at the Republican National Convention in Tampa. The reason? Because they didn't sign an affidavit that under penalty of perjury would swear their support for Mitt Romney's nomination. Now, Ron Paul supporters are known for their rowdiness. But the Republican Party has never required an affidavit in the process of selecting representative delegates. So why now? And what will this mean for the convention? To answer these questions and more, I'm joined now by Austin Petersen, Director of Production for Freedom Works. Hey, Austin, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So why are they doing these intimidation tactics?
I really don't know, because it seems like it's just one step closer on the re-elect Obama train, because Romney is really going to risk a civil war in the GOP if he continues to do this. And it's very disingenuous of Romney to come out and use an affidavit like this when he himself signed an executive order in 2003 reforming Massachusetts notary laws. When you look at this affidavit, it does have some clear problems with the notary on it. Well, the biggest glaring problem is, how can someone sign a notary saying that they will do something in the future? If you go and you pay your light bill, you have to pay your light bill when you sign the notary and get it signed. So how in the world can someone say, we demand that you get a form notarized saying you will do something in the future? It doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, the Paulites here might actually have some legal ground to say, no, we actually have some standing here. You can't make us sign an affidavit saying we're going to do something in the future to have notarized. So there are some legal problems here.
That is a really interesting point. I didn't even think about it that way.
Yeah.
That is really interesting. And especially in 2008, when a Utah delegate wanted to vote for Mitt Romney instead of McCain, and the RNC's legal counsel actually made a statement saying that they don't recognize a state's binding of national delegates, consider each delegate a free agent who can vote for whoever they choose.
Well, sure, absolutely. But the thing is that, you know, of course the Republican Party has their own rules. They can make, you know, delegates obey rules that the state parties lay down. And there's no federal requirement that says that delegates can't do whatever they want. You know, by strict definition of law, you know, we have a Voting Rights Act, which makes it so that anybody can vote for whoever they want in any, you know, federal election. And technically, the Republican National Convention is a federal election, because what happens is if you actually field a candidate, if you're putting up a candidate for a federal office, then you are subject to federal election laws. And federal election laws mean that you cannot bind someone to vote for a certain type of candidate. Delegates can vote for whoever they want. Now, the party can say, we will have repercussions if you don't do what I want. And they are a private club, and you will have to face the music if you don't do that. But you cannot say legally that someone absolutely must vote for someone and then bind them to that. This affidavit has no standing, I believe.
Do you think this is going to be a portion of this lawsuit that we see against the RNC for the intimidation and for the voting fraud and all these other allegations? Do you think we're going to see this now integrated, this affidavit?
It could be, but I mean, all it could really do is just affirm the law as it stands already, which is just that it's basically that, you know, that the delegates really can vote for whoever they want. But I mean, like, let's talk about the politics of this right now. I mean, Mitt Romney is fighting not just the libertarian wing of the Republican Party here. It was the Tea Partiers that worked very hard to put these delegates in. It was the people that voted for these delegates. It wasn't, they weren't selected by, you know, the National Convention. They weren't selected, excuse me, by the state parties. The leadership of the state parties need to they need to deal with the mandate of their people. When their people say, hey, we vote for these delegates, these are the people we want to send to the National Convention, they need to honor that, because there's two great stories out of this. There's this one young man, his name's Evan Kenney. He's an 18-year-old Ronald Reagan-style Republican, and he beat the GOP's most recent governor candidate for a delegate slot. And you really want to disenfranchise these people? Carol Claros, she's a Worcester, Mass. Single mom and a nurse. You know, she spent the last several months organizing. She was absolutely terrified, nervous, giving her speech to become a delegate, but the people elected her. And it's very, very strange that Mitt Romney would do this, especially after Rand went and stuck his neck out, Senator Rand Paul went and stuck his neck out for Governor Romney to endorse him and say that, you know, that we would take these libertarians into the Republican Party. And then Senator Paul took a lot of backlash for that from his own supporters. And so for Mitt Romney to come out and do something like this, it says something about Governor Romney's politics, that he's not interested in working with these libertarians in the GOP. And if so, that means that Rand's endorsement puts him in a more precarious position with his own supporters, because if they are disenfranchised at the Republican convention, you can bet, I mean, hell hath no fury like a Paulite scorned. And this is a really bad move by Governor Romney, because it's not just about the libertarians. There are a lot of Tea Party conservatives who do like Senator Rand Paul, they do like the libertarians, they do want these young people in the GOP, and if the GOP does keep pushing them, trying to push them out, you can guarantee that they're going to go pull that ballot for Gary Johnson, and they will re-elect Obama.
Well, how much more can they really push them? I mean, this is pretty ridiculous. I mean, having someone sign an affidavit promising that you will endorse Romney.
You just absolutely can't. I mean, you absolutely cannot do that. It's just against the law.
What are people going to do who are, like the young gentleman that you talked about, who beat out the other candidate for the governor? Yeah, the gubernatorial candidate. I mean, what is that going to do to young people who want to get involved in politics and they see this kind of disenfranchisement happening?
It's going to bring rage, and I really don't want to see any violence, but any more than we have. We've seen violence occur, and you know, analyzing Ron Paul's statement to his supporters after what happened in Louisiana at some of these caucuses where there was violence, always done to them, never were the Paulites instigating violence. But I would not want to have any more violence happen, and if something were to happen, I could see the delegates at the convention getting very angry, and who knows what could happen. You know, we've seen, you know, don't tase me, bro. We've seen a lot of violence done, and the last thing that I want is there to be a reason, a cause for any more rage. If the GOP wants to have a togetherness, if they want to pull everybody together to beat Obama, he's got to stop these kinds of tactics, because it's not like he's going to lose the nomination.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, we already know that the nomination's in the bag. Right. Ron Paul's even come out himself and said that he doesn't have enough delegates. So what really is this all about? Is it just to halt the embarrassment? I mean, we already know what happened in Massachusetts with the supposed coup.
I mean, I won't lie. These people, I think, are their status. I think that they absolutely fear what the Ron Paulites represent, which is real limited government. And that is the last thing that the establishment Republicans want to see in the United States. They do not want to see an end to bailouts. They do not want to see an end to wars. They do not want to see a return to civil liberties. They don't want Americans hearing this. So they want to shut these people up. I believe in my soul that's exactly what it is. And I don't want to get emotional about this. But, you know, I really care about these issues, and I care about the future of this country, and I think these Paulites do too, and they deserve to have their voice heard at the Republican convention. It's not like they're taking over the place. It's not like they're threatening any sort of violence or even doing any sort of violence. And Rand Paul has come out and stuck his neck out and endorsed Mitt Romney and said that these people should go along to get along, they should work within the GOP.
And you think that was a good move? Well,
I think it was a good move for Rand if he wants to stay a Republican in good standing and be able to bring legislation like an order to the Fed to the floor. Doesn't mean that I like it or that I have to go along with it, and I'll choose to vote my conscience. An endorsement doesn't really mean anything other than to say, you know, he's a better candidate than Obama, which, you know, I technically think Governor Romney might be a better candidate than Obama. But to me, it's really two sides of the same coin. If Romney pulls things like this, I will be urging people to vote for the third party.
So right now, do you endorse Mitt Romney?
Absolutely not, and I will not do so. I stand on the same grounds that Ron Paul does until Mitt Romney starts to make real concessions towards the libertarian platform. If he stops making actions like this, there's absolutely no way that a libertarian like myself could support a Mitt Romney. I would not do it. I am very... I'm a very compromising person. You know, I would take steps, you know, towards anyone who would hold their hand out to me and say, hey, you know what, Austin, you can't have Ron Paul as president, you can't have Rand Paul as president. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to say to you, you young Paulistas, you've worked so hard to work within the GOP. We're going to give you Rand or Ron as the VP. We're going to put Judge Napolitano, a real libertarian, as the Attorney General. We're going to audit the Fed and fire Bernanke, and that's it. You know, and then you know what? I might actually say, you know what, Governor Romney? Fine, let's do it. And we'll go out there and we'll beat Obama. But when he does things like this, he's just setting himself up for the re-elect Obama campaign. Why doesn't he get out there and put an Obama sign in his front yard right now? Because that's effectively what he's doing.
Well, let's hear from Ron Paul himself about Romney. Let's roll that soundbite.
Your son, Senator Rand Paul, has endorsed Romney. I take it you're not yet ready yourself to endorse Romney, are you?
No. Not ready.
You're not ready?
No way.
So there's Ron Paul seeming pretty determined that he's not going to endorse Mitt Romney. But you just said that you would concede some some aspects of your platform, or the Libertarian platform, in order to see some other things happen, like the audit, the Fed bill, really be pushed through. I mean, what are the chances of that, though, really happening?
Well, it doesn't look very good at the moment. I had thought that if, that we had made certain concessions, that perhaps the GOP might be more accommodating. And there is still time for the GOP to change their minds. They're not just alienating the libertarians here. They're also alienating real conservatives who want these, platform issues addressed. They do want an audit of the Fed. So I don't know what's going to happen in the next few months, but these are indications that that Governor Romney is not serious about winning election in 2012. And right now, with these kinds of tactics, it makes somebody say, well, 4 more years of Obama versus 8 years of Romney, we might be a better deal if we could put a Republican Senate and a Republican House in and create a divided government so that the conservatives don't go along to get along with Romney themselves and say, well, all of the conservatives right now who are saying, oh, yeah, we'll pull it for Romney because he's a Republican. Well, what's going to happen if Romney wins? They're all going to turn away from their libertarian platform just like they've done in the past, and they're going to betray us. So it may be better for the Republicans to lose so that they'll actually, speak, limited government rather than go along to get along with whatever big government Romney's going to push down our throats for the next 8 years.
It does seem like it's to that point where people have to ask, should we continue to work within the establishment or seek something outside of it? Thank you so much.
Do everything you can, yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
That was Austin Petersen, Director of Production for Freedom Works.